So we did How They Lie, part 2, talking about feels over reals, feelings over facts. And straight after recording that one, I saw something that someone had sent to me via Telegram. And it was a guy in Perth, Australia. I don't know anything about this guy, but I'm going to make a few points about it that I think tie into the systematic versus empathetic brains thing, and a few takeaways which can be very, very important. So the video, I'll play it. I'll try and download it. Let's play it here. Take 1.
G'day folks, this is Chris. Today is August the 11th, 8:45 p.m. and I've had the most interesting day you could ever imagine. I'm a very normal 47-year-old man. I have a professional career. I have 2 beautiful young girls, 6 and 9, and I thought I had a loving wife of 15 years. But today I was visited by 2 police officers and 2 mental health practitioners in Western Australia. And I was advised that I needed to go for a medical assessment. I was taken involuntarily in a ambulance to Fiona Stanley Hospital in Perth, and here where I've endured a so-called psychological assessment, and I've been deemed as having, well, verbally I've been told I've had a nervous breakdown, which is completely untrue. But the paperwork says something completely different. The paperwork says that I've had some sort of, I've got some sort of personality distrusting disorder of some sort. Not sure exactly what the wording was. I don't have it with me, apologies. But I think it said I was suspicious. I think it was on there, suspicious, and for that reason they've issued me some sort of section, and I've been brought to what I can only call a prison and held against my will. I'll just show you around our beautiful accommodation. This is our exercise yard, aren't we lucky? And I've got a beautiful room which I'll show you later. So why and how? Well, apparently my wife has reported me, and the reason my wife has reported me and being concerned is that I have a different opinion to her about the current situation with the suspected COVID-19 situation and everything that goes along with that. I have certainly a concerning opinion about my small children, and this is how easily this can happen, folks. This is what's happening. Apparently I'm the mad one, but here we are. Not sure what's going to happen. I've got to have an assessment. I've conveniently been told I can't get an assessment till tomorrow. I've got a lawyer involved because conveniently my wife is a pharmacist, a clinical pharmacist at one of the hospitals, but doesn't actually know the chief pharmacist at this hospital. Not that that could have anything to do with it. That would be paranoid schizophrenia, of course. Anyway, folks, this is just documenting the situation. We'll see what happens tomorrow, whether I'll still be here, and we'll go from there. But by the grace of God, I will be out, and we will be able to talk to the world properly about what's really happened, and to help others get through this. So God bless you all, and please pray for me. Thank you.
His wife dobbed him in to the authorities. His wife. Oh, that's gotta hurt. It wouldn't surprise me if she was banging the boss, unfortunately, poor bastard. But look, there's a couple of things. The reason why I want to talk about this is because in the last video, in the feels over reals, the feels over facts video, talked about systematic and empathetic brains. And empathetic brains are going to be more susceptible to peer pressure, to society. You see this in how susceptible teenage girls are to their peer group. I think, once again, my super fact buddy pointed out one time, saying that the largest predictor for a teenage girl to want to come out as trans is that she has a friend who did. So, look, humans in general are susceptible to peer pressure, but I think in general you'll find that women, young girls and adult women, are more so than men on average. If you look at the personality profiles, Jordan Peterson has always said women are more agreeable than men. Men are more disagreeable on average than women. And agreeable just means you're going to go along with society. And so that's going to tie heavily into the empathetic brain thing. Social brains, empathetic brains, are going to be more susceptible to peer pressure, more want to run with the herd, more want to run with the mainstream. And remember, I described the oddball, systematic, guy kind of phenomenon. The guy with, the cringe boomer ponytail and wearing a pair of Crocs, and he's signaling to other people socially is very low status, but he has a systematizing brain, and he maybe he's very intelligent and he can build you a car, or he's really into electronics or something. It's kind of like the nerd phenomenon. You're systematically very intelligent, but socially just not on top of your signaling and not aware of it either, because you're socially blind. Whereas the social brains are systematically blind. Look, I would venture to say that this, I don't know these people at all, but I would venture to say that this would have been an element leading up to this poor guy having his wife dob him into the authorities. And let me explain why. The reason why is I could see it happening very clearly, that he is, like I said, I don't mean this in a bad way, but from the normie perspective, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist going, look, this is, just as an example, this is what Biden said, or look, this is the data, or this is that. But because he maybe, and I'm just completely speculating here to make a point, but I think I wouldn't be at all surprised to see if this was applicable to his marriage, that he's Mr. Systematizer going on about facts and figures, and this person's saying that, and they've admitted to this, and blah blah blah, but being completely blind to the social cost that it's putting on his wife, because his wife possibly is more social brained and more system blind, so her care for what people have admitted to, or what can be proven, or what's in the law, or contradictions and double standards, etc., etc. Think of that meme of that guy, the funny little guy with the whiteboard of crazy interconnected, conspiracy theory, private detective stuff, where he's just got, the guy like kind of going crazy. He's got the 3-day growth and the crazy eyes look on, and he's pointing to this whiteboard behind him that's just this absolute mess, of connections. And it's like, that's a meme, right? He's like, look at this, and you're just pointing to this pile of mess, but he's like kind of figured it out in this crazy genius way, and he's got this crazy eyes glare on his face. You know what I mean? I could imagine there'd be an element of the husband doing that to the wife, and the wife being very deeply unhappy about that, because the value that she places on things like double standards or proving conspiracies or whatever may be very low compared to the value that she places on fitting in and being agreeable to the society that she's in. You see where I'm coming from? And it would not surprise me if that frustration built to the point where she wanted to dob in her husband to get him, I don't know if she wanted to beat him out of the house, or she had an affair on him, or she just honestly worried about him and wanted the authorities to make him better, I don't know, but that's a massive betrayal to call the authorities on your partner, and I can only imagine the level of distrust and dissatisfaction that would make you do that. And so it is very important to look at these methods of lying, these methods of manipulation, and to understand the systematizing versus empathizing spectrum. Because if you look at the people who really program the empathizers, the social brains, they don't go crazy and go wild-eyed and scream and yell and point to a crazy whiteboard map. You know what I mean? They don't do that. And so you've got to wise up as well, and you've got to learn how to read the social cues. You know, there are a lot of levels to this. If you want to communicate to the social brains, you're signaling, and even as a man, your grooming, your mannerisms, how excited you are, and in the ways in which you're excited, whether you're coming across as friendly but energetic, or if you're coming across as nervous or angry and sweaty, that kind of thing. This is all really going to matter to the social brains, because if you don't get it right, you will push them away and they'll just go, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? That's the phenomenon of the slick politician, yet again, is all the signaling, the haircut, the teeth, the mannerisms, the rate of speech, the pitch of the speech, the suit, what's behind them, the way other people react to them. This is all part of the signaling to program the social brains. And so I think that, unfortunately, you know, if this guy, look, I don't know this guy, once again, I'm going to say yet again, I don't know who this guy is. He might have some really fucking out there ideas, and I have no idea what he even said or what his position is. But my point is that a situation like that, and what I'm saying, could be universalizable to many different scenarios. You know, if you are following this channel, you're probably more of a systematizing brain. So trust me when I say you need to care about your signaling. You need to care about how the empathetic brains are receiving you, and it's something you need to massage, not bulldoze. You don't just bulldoze down their walls. You don't just run straight through the emotional defenses. You have to massage them and work around them and that sort of thing. It's something you need to learn. You really need to learn that, because you know, if you don't, and if I'm right about this scenario, you'll just push them away and they'll hate you, and they will look to the authorities to try and fix you, to the point where your own wife could rat you out to the authorities. I mean, that's horrible. I don't think my wife would ever do that to me. And that brings me on to my next point. The social brains, and this, you know, in general, this is going to be the feminine brains, but, you know, some women are more systematic, you know, like it's like an 80-20 thing, right? You know, they're, like I said in the last video, there are rules, there are exceptions to the rule, but the exceptions tend to prove the rule, so it's still a general rule of thumb. But the social brains are agreeable, they're susceptible to other people, they're susceptible to the mainstream, they're influenceable. You know, everyone is to a degree, but they are more so. And if you don't learn these skills of working with and around those limitations, then you run the risk of not being in a leadership position. Now, I don't think my wife would ever betray me like that. A, because I chose a great woman. B, because my values are so in line with her family's values, and I have so much crossover with her father that she's quite used to someone like me. C, because our social group are all very much on the same wavelength. It's not controversial for us to discuss things that are beyond the mainstream. And so for a variety of reasons, and also D, because I've never shied away from gently and lovingly pointing out the reality. And it takes time, but it's very interesting when you can say, well, people tend to do this. And then as the months and years unfold, they can see that thing that you mentioned happening and people doing it. And you go, yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And they go, wow, yeah, you pointed that out. Yeah. Well, and the other thing they do is this. And you can see that too. And then the connections over time and through repetition, gentle repetition, start to be made. And if you do that successfully, then you become the influence. You become the leader, and you gain that trust. You gain that trust as someone who knows what they're talking about and has their best interest at heart. And I think you can signal to the social brains that you have their best interest at heart. Well, you should signal to them that you do, but it's more the opposite, that if you are so socially blind that you are not factoring in their disgust or distrust or discomfort at what you're saying, and you're unknowingly just frustrating them and pushing them further away, well, you're signaling that you don't have their best interests at heart, and then you lose that trust as well. So and so what I'm trying to say with this guy and his wife is that in a lot of ways, a lot of people in society they're going to be influenced either way. They're going to be influenced by what the dominant influence is, and whether that's you, as the man in your family, how much of a dominant, loving, benevolent, and dominant influence are you when it comes to explaining the world and getting your family to sort of see things? Or are you just going to go on this crazy out there rants while your wife is slowly hating you, and then she runs screaming back to the authorities, to the mainstream authorities for safety? You see what I'm saying? A lot of people in society will be led, and if it's not by you, they will find someone else. They will, you know what I mean? They will go back to the authorities and go back to the mainstream. And so learn to navigate. We'll learn to see the systematic and the empathetic brains, but then learn to navigate each as required. Don't push the social brains away. Don't have yourself go down the rabbit hole so far that your own wife dobs you in for a psychological evaluation. Oh my God, poor bastard. Anyway, look, I hope that was an interesting postscript